I guess it's being a little bit of mess when Mary ended up, and we don't know if we have like 5 minutes between talks and everyone is trying to figure out where the talks are happening. That's okay. We will try to adjust as we go and be agile. So, but anyway, let's get this started because I have an intro, so we have some minutes for people to be joining us in the next minutes. Let me introduce myself. Vanity slides, sorry. My name is Angel Medinilla. I come from Spain, from sunny, beautiful Spain, from Seville. There's an interesting website here, proyectalis.com/en/Angel Medinilla, and the interesting thing is that these slides are available there, and also all the slides of all of our materials and talks. I mean, our Scrum course, the Kanban course, the Agile Management course, the Coaching Agile Team course, the Agile Product Management course. All the slides are available in this site. There's also links to a lot of videos. We have several talks that I'm doing in 4 continents right now. How cool is that? I will be traveling to the United States in a couple of weeks and then to South America. I've been in Israel a couple of months ago. So there's a lot of talks about lean startup, development teams. So you might find that interesting. There's a lot of resources there. So if you want to take pictures of the slides, that's okay. But please remember that they are freely available and you can download them. There's also the Twitter handle, Angel_M. I love when people take pictures of me because it wouldn't be very polite that I start like selfie in the middle of a talk. But if you take pictures of me and you upload it to Twitter, I love it. The reason for that is that my hungry ego needs to be fed, okay? So if you feed my ego by following me on Twitter and uploading pictures, I love that. Okay, what else? Well, I wrote a couple of books. Here you have them, Agile Kaizen and Agile Management. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about them later on. And I'm also a consultant. Sorry, I have to get a living. That's what was available when I decided to create my own company. So I'm doing consulting for a living. And I'm working with a lot of companies worldwide in doing Agile transformation. I'm in contact with real teams doing real products in the real world. So everything I'm going to talk about is not only about literature and about what I read and hear about in conferences. It's about what we are doing in several different industries, from video games to military, including banking, consulting, electronics, telecommunications, you name it. We are working with a lot of companies worldwide. I'm also part of the Management 3.0 trainer community, and that's basically it, okay? Those were my vanity slides. Thank you. Oh, look, a kitten. Isn't it cute? The reason I have a kitten in my presentation is that research shows that putting kittens in your presentations gives 25% better feedback. It's guaranteed, okay? So when you give feedback on my talk, please remember the kitten, okay? The kitten was cute. Anyway, I have like 40 minutes and I have like 71 slides. This presentation, this particular presentation, is kind of a monster. I don't know what to do. This morning I was like, okay, I'm going to cut down 20% of my slides. And I ended up with 2 new slides. Okay, so I don't know what to do with it. It tries to cover all the material we are doing with product management and product development teams in companies worldwide. And I try to make like a very, very high-level overview of all the things that you can include in this discipline of Agile product management. This means that sometimes when people get feedback on the talk, they are like, oh yeah, you didn't go deep into concepts. Yeah, I know. I had to make a decision between telling you one thing in some detail or giving you a list of 10 or 20 tools that you can maybe research later. And I decided on that. Okay, so it's my conscious decision. There's a trade-off. I decided to give you several ideas on things you might want to try. Okay, some of them you might have heard about. Some of them you may think, oh, this is something new. So that's good. If you've heard about impact mapping or MVPs, and then suddenly I talk to you about something new like metrics or funnel analytics or whatever, you might want to try this new thing. Okay, and that's my goal with this talk. So let's go. Let's start the talk. This talk is about lean startup for Agile product management. Agile product management. We are Agile. That's good news. I remember the bad times. I've been in this Agile thing long enough to remember the times where people were like, oh no, we don't believe in this Agile thing. Oh, this Agile thing is a fad. This is like something that is fashionable now. But no, that will never work here. And we had to convince businesses that, oh, Agile was a real thing. And it was not only for small teams doing like open source and things like that. This was real thing that we could use in big companies. Nowadays, we don't have that problem anymore. Everyone is like, we want to be agile. Why? Oh, because of the word itself, agile. Isn't it great? Who doesn't want to be agile? So the problem right now is not to convince your company to be agile. The problem is that everyone is like, yeah, we want to be agile. In fact, we are agile. Look, we have post-its on the wall. So that's a clear sign that we are agile. No? Yeah, we are agile. We have post-its on the wall. Still, when I visit these companies that are claiming that we are already agile because we are doing Scrum, and if we are doing Scrum, that means that we are agile. Guess what? There's a lot of black holes in agility. When I go to these companies that are claiming that they are doing Kanban or Scrum or XP or whatever the flavor, I don't care, there's a lot of things that I find that are like, not clear or not well defined or are not, they are like a little bit smelly. Like for instance, leading and self-organization. I have a full talk on the problems of self-organization when you go on a Monday morning and you tell command and control teams, you know what, guys? I've read about this Agile thing that works with cross-functional, self-organizing, hyper-productive teams. You're going to be hyper-productive starting 8 a.m. in the morning. And now you self-organize. And then a lot of bad things happen, like teams working on wrong things and teams deciding to drop Agile and go back to Waterfall because they are self-organizing to go back to Waterfall. How do we solve that? If we give self-organization to teams, how do we make sure that they are working on the right things and they are solving the right problems? That's a problem. There's also this thing where Agile says, well, you have to collaborate with your customer. And then some of my clients are like, do you know my customer? I want to introduce you to my customer, and then you're going to tell me I have to collaborate with that guy. And you're like, yeah, well, I know. How do you collaborate with these guys? Mary Poppendick, I'm going to be quoting the talk. It's been brilliant this morning. And she was saying, okay, you have to figure out what your stakeholder values and how your stakeholder will define success. And then you find a customer saying, okay, what I value is that you deliver the whole scope for the given deadline under the given budget. And that's how I will measure success. And then you're like, that's a lot like waterfall, command and control, project-driven development. Yeah, but that's your customer, and you have to collaborate with them. How about what happens when your customer does not want to be agile? He wants the full scope list on the deadline and under the budget. How does Scrum solve that? Black hole. Then we also have Agile wanting you to change the status quo in your companies. They want you to face your companies and say, we have to change. And changing companies is hard. And Scrum or XP or Kanban do not tell you how to change your company mindset and how to change the culture in your company. And you also have the problem we are going to be talking about. Where's the backlog coming from? You get these Scrum books, they are neat, and they are like, okay, we have this product owner, and they have the backlog. And the backlog is a list of things, user stories, and they are estimated, and they are prioritized. And you're like, yeah, but where's the backlog coming from? And then people had to get like creative. Do you remember the times when we talked about Sprint Zero? Sprint Zero was like, it's not like a proper sprint, but this is where we create the backlog, because Scrum doesn't tell you where the backlog is coming from. It's like magic, black hole. You should have a backlog somewhere. And usually, it's not a problem, because when I go to companies, there's so many things they want to do. They have like these huge amounts of backlog items. So they put them on a list, and here you are, backlog. But what does that say about your product? It's just a bunch of requirements. Backlogs are created in a very 20th century way, in the sense that product managers or product owners, the whole thing they're doing most of the time, according to my experience, it's requirements gathering. They will go to the customers and they will say, what do you want? They are like waiters. Waiters in the bar. What do you want? I want some coffee and I want some fish. And you are like, fish and coffee. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but guess what? It's what the customer wants. I will write that in a user story. I will push it to the team. That's not my problem anymore. I kicked it out of my desk. Now this is the development team's problem. Fish and coffee. That's a requirement. Makes no sense. It's in the backlog. That's a problem. Also, we have this problem where you will take notes and then you will pass these notes to the team. And user stories, they should be stories. Like we sit with the team, we talk to them. Most of the time, according to my experience, when I go to teams, you see these user stories in the wall that read something like J/2347, which is like a Jira code or something. And you're like, oh, beautiful story. We should make a movie about that. J2347 is so inspiring. And then when people write user stories, and then there's some other people will be like reading those stories and trying to figure out what stories are about, then we have another problem, which is how people interpret those stories. Jeff Patton uses these pictures from a website that is called cakerex.com, and it's hilarious. You can check it later. And it's a website about cakes gone wrong. For instance, you have this cake here that reads, "Best wishes, Suzanne. Underneath that, we will miss you." What? You see what happened here? Someone was talking on the phone and said, "I want a cake, and I want the cake to say, 'Best wishes, Suzanne,' and underneath that, we will miss you." And then it's in the user story, it's in the backlog. We will deliver it, kick it out of the building. Now it's not our problem anymore. Guess what? We did it under time and under budget. Success. The product is wrong. Oh, not our problem. We are a Scrum cross-functional development team. We are executing a backlog. It's not our problem. Or for instance, you have this cake here that says, "Congratulations for doing an exemplary job. Thanks," capital letter. Well, it was in the backlog. It was a user story. Or for instance, this one, "Congratulations as small as possible." I wouldn't like to receive this cake. Or my personal favorite, "Nuts allergy, happy birthday, Peter." Well, nuts allergy was not supposed to be on the text. So this is what happens a lot of the time, where you have someone gathering requirements at the customer and then pushing the requirements to a development team. You know, sometimes I say, if that's product management, I can substitute a product manager with a PC running Linux in the morning. I will set a send mail relay, and I will take all the mails from the customer, and I will send them to the team, just, mangling the headers and saying, "As the product owner, I want you to," what was that? "Nuts allergy." You can do that with a PC running Linux. It's going to save you a lot of money. Kick your product manager out of a building if all they're doing is gathering requirements and pushing those requirements to the team. There's no value in that. That's a relay. So, another problem we have when we're building backlogs, something that we have to fix. We have this situation where product manager is scared because nobody's using our product. So they will go to the customer and ask, "What features are we missing?" And then the customer will be like, "Oh, it's Christmas Day. I want this and this and this and this." And then they will build all those missing features into the product, only to find out that still nobody uses our product. And this is product death cycle. This is how products die. Because you are ignoring fundamental characteristic of your customers, which is the junk garage syndrome. The junk garage syndrome is these things that happens when you suddenly see this exercising machine in the mall, and you're like, "Oh my God, I need this exercising machine, and I'm gonna so use it every day." And then you buy that machine, but sooner or later it ends up in your garage and you're not using it. And then you see a pair of skis and you're like, "Oh my God, I always wanted to learn how to ski. I need those pair of skis." So you buy the skis, but then you never find the time to go to the mountains, and then they end up in the garage. And then you buy lots of stuff like golfing clubs and bicycles and stuff and stuff and stuff and stuff. And one day you try to open the garage and the car does not fit in anymore because it's full of junk that you thought that you needed so much, but then you never use it. That's human condition. We think we want a lot of things. I want this and this and this, and when I have this, I will be happy. When I have the next car, I will be happy. When I'm able to buy a boat, I will be happy. That's your customer asking for features. That's what Henry Ford meant when he said, "If I had asked my customers, what do you want?" they would have answered, "Faster horses." There's a problem to be solved, but if you just rely on your customer listing the features of your product, you will end up with faster horses. And how does Scrum solve that? There's supposed to be some learning loop with the demos. We will show something to the customer and say, "Yeah, but you know what?" But then the customer will ask for more features, and we put more features into a product, a demo, more features into a product, demo. It doesn't seem to be solving this problem for a lot of my own customers, according to my experience. What I see, my personal experience, I might have a bias here, but what I see in companies worldwide is that you have products that are monsters. It's like you are featuring a horror movie with a feature monster, okay? And the feature monster is your product. And in your product, there might be these 10%, 20% of the features that are the real magic, the real reason that people are using your product. They are using all those features all the time. And then there's like 80% of junk, including 20% of the features that customers hate. And they're still on the product because maybe there's that one psychopath that says that he needs those features. So you create a feature for a psychopath and then you make 99% of your customers angry because they hate that feature. Yeah, but the customer is asking for that. Again, this is a problem of, yes, doing whatever your customer asks for. So sometimes Agile for many customers ends up being, hey, let's do double the crop, double fast, okay? We are doing bad products, we are creating a lot of features people don't like. Solution, more features. We need to be faster. We need to increase productivity. Guess what? This is wrong. And I don't think that Agile was about double the crop and double fast, more productivity. In fact, and I'm going to be controversial here, when I see teams doing Kanban, not all the teams, but there's a lot of teams that focus on Kanban flow and lead time and productivity and being very, very, very fast, executing a list of tickets or Kanban signs or user stories, I don't care. And they don't care that much if that list makes any sense or will produce any market success or will create the best possible product. The focus on a lot of Kanban teams is productivity, make it fast. Because you know what? In Kanban there's no retrospective, there's no demo. So we shouldn't do it because it's not described in Kanban. I don't think everything is about flow and productivity. Productivity is nice, flow is nice, reducing lead time is nice, but all these ideas come from Lean, from Toyota. And Toyota was not about productivity and cutting down lead time. Toyota started saying, we have to maximize customer value delivery. And in order to do that, let's figure out what do we need. And guess what? They found customers that say, hey, for us, it will be very, very important that you deliver fast. And say, okay, let's be faster. But sometimes fast is not the most important thing. Sometimes it is. And productivity sometimes is not the most important thing. I will show that later. So again, where's the backlog coming from? The idea behind Scrum, for instance, is that you have this person which is the product owner. And the product owner is such like a visionary. He will have the vision of the product in his mind. And the product backlog will be emerging from the visionary mind. And we trust, or we have some faith, that we will find these people in the market that are able to envision successful products. How do you do that? Is this like a mutant superpower or something? How do you evaluate people to know that they are able to envision future success markets? And I don't see that many visionaries in the market. So is this like a proven strategy for product success? I think it's a weak strategy for product success. Most of the time, according to my experience, what I see when I go to work with customers is we have these product owners, product managers that have vision for products, and they are like, hey, I have this great idea. Like for instance here, oh, I've thought about this great product. And this great product is, let's use segways for military forces. And you're like, that's plain stupid. But it's not your work to criticize the product owner's vision. You are the Scrum development team. So hey, you get this backlog that describes a segue for military product, and you execute that super agile, super fast. Maybe the team designing this product, I'm not designing, but delivering this product was the most agile team ever, you know. Maybe they were doing Scrum and Kanban and XP, and they have like continuous delivery, automated testing, continuous integration, everything on place. Still, the product is stupid and has no market success. And they will say, not our fault, it's not my fault, go talk to the visionary, he was wrong. But we were talking about scaling agility this morning, and Mary Poppins was saying, we don't try to say, no, it's his fault, it's his fault. Who is responsible for customer value delivery? If we are like, oh, that's the product owner's role, that's the product manager's responsibility, then we are not as agile as we were supposed to be. For instance, another idea, the amazing watermelon transporter, patent pending. Maybe you have this vision for this product. Nobody's doing it. Yeah, maybe for a reason. And then you have a team that will execute this product. Maybe it's the most agile team ever. Scrum, XP, Kanban, whatever. Still, the product is a failure. Or for instance, we have this amazing American product, of course, this is for the United States, the amazing steering wheel tray, okay, so you can eat and use your computer and everything on the car, okay, yeah, fantastic. Or very, very, very bad products like Clippy. Do you remember Clippy, the office assistant? Seems that you are writing a letter. Shut the fuck up. See, we hated this thing. We hated it with a passion. But someone in Microsoft was like, no, you don't understand. This is a clever idea. It took us nearly a decade to switch the whole thing off and get it out of the office suite. Because there was some product manager saying, no, you're wrong. You don't understand. I'm a visionary. You don't want visionaries in your companies. You want validated learning. You want communications with the market. You want to learn about what the market actually needs and wants and appreciates. You want to learn about these 20% of the features that are magic. And this is what we need to incorporate to the usual Agile way of working or doing things. So some couple of years ago, I started writing this book, Agile Kaizen, and it's about continuous improvement in Agile companies. I saw that companies doing Agile were being stuck in retrospectives, and they were doing something that I call the Groundhog Day retrospective. You remember this movie by Bill Murray, Groundhog Day, where he was living the same day over and over and over? Well, Groundhog Day retrospective is when you have the same retrospective over and over and over, with the same problems and the same impediments and the same complaints, and nothing seems to get fixed. So I was really bothered by this problem, and I wrote a book about how to improve your people, how to improve your teams, how to improve your process, how to improve your culture, and yes, how to improve your product. Because it doesn't matter how much you increase your process, if your process is very, very efficient on building the wrong thing, then still your company is not successful. You have to be able to build the right thing. And that comes in the field of improving your products. And this is something that we incorporated into a lot of Agile companies. So for product improvement, what I found is a body of knowledge in Lean Startup. In Lean Startup, there was a lot of people that were incorporating a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge on how to iterate products, not just delivery, not just trying to approximate to the definition of the product and the requirements and the user story and the product backlog. It was more about where's the backlog coming from? How do we decide what product to build? And I said, this is cute, this is nice. This morning, Mary Poppendieck was quoting two books, Start with the Why and The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. And she was talking about focusing, and she was talking about building the right thing, okay? So this is exactly the same body of knowledge that I used for my product Kaizen approach. Basically, in startup, I will spare you the book at all. Lean Startup is about making sure that there's a market for your product before you actually build your product. You don't want to spend $100 million building a product, launch that product into the market, create a crater, a hole in the ground of $100 million and say, oops, nobody wanted that, let's try it again. You don't want to do that, okay, because that's going to be like tough, it's going to hurt. Instead of that, you want to make sure that when you are investing dollars into a product, that's a product you have some evidence that the market will want. How you do that? Well, there's 10 things that I can incorporate to your Agile product management process and strategy in order to, maybe not to be absolutely sure, but be more successful when launching products into the market. Have some more evidence that the products you are working at are the right products. So there's 5 big things that you have to incorporate, and then there's 5 interesting stuff also, but maybe smaller in the sense of this presentation, that I will go like faster. I will spend more time in the 5 first things that I will advise, and then I will go a little bit faster on the 5 and on the second half of the list. So let's go. 10 things to improve your product management strategy. Number 1, start with a vision. Most of the time, I see teams that are delivering features and they actually don't care about what problem are we solving. You are like, I need a form, and I need these fields, and I need these buttons, and I need this to go to the database, and they're like, okay, I'll build it. Very seldom I find teams that ask why you need that. Oh, because the customer asked for it. And you're like, yeah, but why does the customer ask for it? Oh, I don't know, he's bored, maybe he hasn't got nothing to do this morning, so he asked for this form. No, there's a reason for it. And sometimes when we start digging for the reason, starting with the why are we building this, we find that we are working on the wrong thing, or maybe there's a better solution than the one that the customer envisioned or the product manager envisioned. This morning, again, Mary Poppindick was saying solution is something that technology has to care about, but people in business and people that are caring about user experience and about product should be caring about our user and the problem we are trying to solve. And we should be able to communicate that problem as clearly as possible to the teams that are responsible for fixing that problem. So for instance, starting with a vision, it's something that you can do at a very high level for your company, or you can do it for an area, department, team, project, user story. Start with a vision for a user story. This is the problem we're trying to solve with the user story. If you think about company, we all know these small sentences that will define, like for instance, if you say, organize the world's information and make it universally accessible, we all know that's Google. Okay, and we rapidly identify with the goal of this company and the one thing they're trying to do. Sometimes you read the vision of a company and you're like, well, our vision is to maximize revenue and strategy, product success, synergy, momentum, quantum, product, envisioning innovation. And you're like, excuse me, are you doing yogurts or cars? I don't understand. Yeah, this brilliant sentence, but I don't know about your business. And many times I read user stories and I'm like, I don't understand what I was trying to do with this. It's like technical mumbo jumbo and I don't know what problem I was trying to solve. And that's like a major red alarm. If you don't have a vision for a product, for a project, for a feature that you are putting into your product, you should start with that. Number two, once you have a vision, this is the problem we're trying to solve for the market, for the universe, for our customer, for this project, for this feature, then understand how are you delivering value? What's the problem you're trying to solve? This vision will also give you some information on how are you delivering value to your customer. Not just value to your boss, to your company. Oh, let's do it as soon as possible, as quick as possible, as fast as possible. I was in this situation. I was coaching a company that is doing telecommunication equipment, and they were like, oh yeah, we have this problem with Chinese manufacturers like Huawei because they are very cheap. And you know, everyone is buying Huawei equipment because they are cheap, and we cannot afford this kind of cost structure because they have a lot of people and their salaries are lower. And I'm like, sorry, excuse me, you don't know about your business. And they were like, sorry? I'm like, yeah, sorry, you are creating telecommunications equipment, you know a lot about technology, you don't know a shit about your customers. And they were like, how you dare saying that? And I said, well, because I've been your customer for 10 years. Hello, I'm your customer. I've been buying your equipment for 10 years. You know what? I never bought your equipment because they were the cheapest in the market. You don't buy telecommunications equipment because they are the cheapest in the market. So if you have a team delivering a solution and they think that value equals being cheap, then you're doing it wrong. When you buy a Cisco router, you are never buying Cisco because it's the cheapest in the market. Bummer. No, you don't understand your market. And I don't care if you've been doing that for 20 years. You don't understand your market. You know what? I'm your customer. I'm the one that knows about the problem I'm trying to solve. When I put a core equipment in the center of my network, I'm not caring about the cost. Of course, it's nice that you can spare some dollars and spend them on the Christmas party at the end of the year, but that's not what you're looking for. So if your teams do not understand what the value for the customer is, you have a big problem. For instance, there's this story about these people trying to sell drill machines, and they were like, oh, our drill machines are the most powerful, they are light, and they use a very few amount of power. And then someone told them, you don't understand, you are not selling drilling machines. That's not the problem you are solving. You are selling holes in the wall. That's the problem you are solving. I need a hole in the wall. So when you start thinking about the problem you're trying to solve instead of your product, then you start to realize what's the value that I am delivering. Even worse, maybe you are not selling a hole in the wall. Maybe you are selling, I want to hang something on the wall. And then you might realize that there's cheaper, faster, easier solution like a super strong sticky tape that they are using now, and they are competing against these products. So if you just think your product, you might be extinct. Kodak. Remember Kodak? They were like the biggest, most important picture, photograph, camera company in the world. And they said at the beginning of the century maybe, we are not playing catch with the Japanese anymore. We are not going to be doing these digital cameras, and we are not being in this rally for the most megapixels. We are a film company. No, you're a dead company. You are not alive anymore. Gone. Why? Because they were in love with the product and they didn't think about the problem we are solving for our customers. You have to do that on a company vision level. You have to do that on a feature level. Is this feature the most important thing that we can do for our customer this week? And if it's not, why the hell are we doing it right now? What's the value that we are delivering? This morning, Mary was saying, stop thinking project space, like, the deadline and the costs and the scope. You have to think product. I want to make it one step further. Stop thinking product. Stop thinking drill machine. Stop thinking film camera, chemical film camera. Think about problem. Think about your user. Think about your customer. Think about the market. Think about the thing you're trying to solve for them. If you have to ditch your product and create a new product, do it. Your company should not be focused on your product. It should be focused on your market, on your people, on your customers, the people paying for it. Okay, so stop thinking on projects and products. Try to solve the most important problem for your customer this week. That's focusing on value instead of backlog, features, scope, deadlines, budget. I like this picture. It's from a website that says useronboard.com. And it says, here you have Mario. Mario is a person who is a potential customer. And here you have your product. And here, when you combine Mario with your product, you have an awesome person who can do like rad shit. Okay, this is amazing. And they say, you don't sell this, you sell this. This is the story you should be selling. My good friend Alejandro Barrera in Spain and also in many countries around the world, he's doing organizational storytelling workshops. He's teaching companies, well-established companies as well as startups, how to tell stories to your customers to make them, emotional about using your product. Like, oh my God, I want to use your product because I'm going to be like a rad, awesome person. Instead of my product has this feature and this feature and this feature and this feature. I don't care about your product. I don't care about your product. I care about my problem. If you tell me that your problem is going to solve my problem, yeah, I might care a little bit about your product. I care about my problem. I care about what your product is going to do for me. And that should be the communication and the conversation we have with our users. Most of the time, the communication is about features. That's product-based. That's project-based. Communications about deadlines and about what are you going to deliver and what's the delivery date and what's going to be the cost. That's the wrong conversation. That conversation needs to happen. It's not the most important conversation. Number 3, gather your opportunities and your assumptions, which means now you have a vision and now you have a problem that you want to solve, probably several problems you want to solve, but there's an infinite amount of things that you could try every single week. The amount of things that you could bring into your backlog, into your portfolio, it's infinite. We could test and try a lot of things. So evaluate those opportunities. Try to gather all the ideas that are floating around in your company. Listen to your market. See what competitors are doing. Watch for technology. There's a lot of sources of ideas, and probably you won't be able to test them all. But there's a good thing on gathering all those ideas, evaluating them, combining those ideas, and thinking about the projects that we will be launching in 6 months' time, or in 3 months' time, or for the next year. Somebody needs to be thinking about that. Most of the companies I work with, according to my experience, they are very, very short-term focused. Our next week delivery, our next term delivery, and then they stop thinking about roadmap, strategy, where the market's going. And the market is going really, really fast. You don't want to be like catching up with the market. You want to be ahead of the market. So you have to evaluate your opportunities and then focus and try to think about which of those opportunities are the ones that will deliver most value to your customers. This is a process that needs to be established in your companies, and it needs to be happening frequently. For this, we are using things like the Opportunity Canvas as designed by Jeff Patton, which is based, of course, in the Business Model Generation Canvas, which is a very well-known framework for gathering assumptions about who is my customer, what's the problem I'm trying to solve, what's the products that the solutions that I could bring to the market, what could be our competitive advantage, what's the activities we need, the partnerships. There's a lot of questions. There's a process of thinking and designing in order to bring ideas on new products and new features that we could put into our products in order to provide more value to our customers. You can also use the value proposition canvas, also designed by Alex Osterwalder, or maybe you can go to Ash Maurya's Lean Canvas, which is basically the same idea. It's a framework for making questions, and we expect that these questions will bring the adequate conversations about where our product should be going to. What should we put into the backlog next? Which is trying to answer this question, where's the product backlog coming from? Or where the product backlog should be coming from. Then, or for instance, you could use impact mapping. This morning, Mary Popeniak was talking about starting with the why. Why are we building this product? Once you know why are we building this product, you can start asking who. Who are we helping with this product? Who are we pissing off with this product? Who's going to help us build this product? Who is going to try to stop us from doing this product? There's a lot of conversations we can have around the projects that very seldom happen. And they might bring ideas on risk, and then might bring ideas on quality and expectations and value. And these conversations are important. We need to have these conversations with our users, with our markets, and also with our internal teams. Number 4, we have a vision. We have an idea on what's value for us, what's value for our customer. We are gathering our assumptions on what can we build in order to meet these problems, solve these problems, deliver value to our customers. Now it's time to prove these assumptions right, because everything you write here is a hypothesis. I think that my customer wants to do holes in the wall. Well, maybe you're wrong. Maybe your customer doesn't want to make holes in the wall. He just wants to hang a picture. And in order to hang a picture, you can do a hole, or maybe you can put a nail, or you can use some glue, or you can use some super strong sticky tape. But if you have the assumption that what my customer wants is a hole in the wall, then you are working on the wrong problem. Before you start putting millions of dollars into drill machine investigation and development and research and development, you want to make sure that what your customer wants is actually a drill machine. And if not, try to figure out what your customer wants. And you don't do that by asking your customer, what do you want? That's gathering requirements. That's, again, faster horses. Instead of that, you experiment. You try to show your customer, you do minimum experiments that you can perform without actually building the product. And then if you have some certainty that you are in the right direction, you might want to push your money a little bit further and build a small prototype, which is not a product at all. The minimum viable product is not a product at all. It's that small toy prototype of your product that you can start showing people to gather more insights and more learning about what we are trying to solve, what my customer values, where is this 20% of magic features. If we could focus on those, we will have 80% of the time free for making having these conversations and having better products. You are trying to do, first of all, minimum viable experiments like polls, like observation. You go to a customer and you observe your customer. Observing your customers is not creating a prototype. It's not a minimum viable product. But if you serve your customer while he's experimenting the problem, you will get a lot of insights on the real problem we are trying to solve. How often do development teams do that? How often development teams go to customer premises and spend some days wandering around before they actually start building a product? Very seldom. And Mary Popeniak this morning said, when we have engineers and product managers and we get them to interact with customers, magic happens. There's always good things happening when we have the technical people that are able to produce solutions, and we have the people that have a problem, and we let them, hang out together for some time. So these experiments like observing and polling and trying to do like design thinking, brainstorming, trying to do low fidelity prototype, like drawing your product and showing your product in paper. Like this will be the screen, and then here you will have a button, and then you will have to have conversations with your customer about the problem you're trying to solve. This is prior to building the product. This is even before you start writing the backlog. We are not thinking about the product. We are trying to understand the problem we are trying to solve. We are trying to understand the person that is suffering this problem. So this is what I mean when we say test your assumptions, do minimum viable experiments, then try to move to minimum viable products, which is like prototyping, and then try to reach as soon as possible a minimum marketable feature set, something that you can put into the market, but it's minimum. Most of the time, according to my experience, every single time I say that is because I'm thinking about real cases. My clients are like, oh, no, we are not ready to launch. It's not ready. It doesn't have enough quality. Yeah, we've done some testing in 4 clients and they love it and they're raving it and they want the product now. But guess what? I don't think it's ready. They are like, oh no, my poor little baby child. I don't want to throw him into the world. He's like a teenager still. Oh, he's so... No, you have to kick that product out of the building as soon as possible. Because when the product is on the market is when we are going to get real insights on market success. If you can do that fast and cheap, it's better than incubate your product for years and then launch your product to the market only to find out that the market has moved on and now they are doing something else. The founders of LinkedIn, they say, if you are not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you are waiting too much. Okay, so the first version of your product, you show it to a customer and you should be like apologizing. It's not ready yet, it's a beta, okay? That's a good sign, okay? That means that we are moving fast, that's good. So my advice is usually to follow this rule, which is TTFU, which stands for talk to your findable, friendly, frequently found users, okay? Friendly users. Talk to your users. Talk to them. Not just ask for requirements. Try to know them. Try to understand their environment. I will advise you to see this tool that is called the Validation Board by the Lean Startup Machine. And it's a neat tool to gather your assumptions, design experiments, and then force people to get out of the building and talk to real users in order to validate their assumptions before we actually build something. In order to build a user story, this user story must have been validated with a customer. Someone must have said, yes, I will pay for that, yes, I will use that, yes, that's exactly the thing that solves my problem. So there's a full body of knowledge on how to do that effectively. You can see this kind of information and this kind of videos and tutorials. But the most important thing is try to realize that you don't know everything, you are not a visionary, try to understand more about your customers. So right now we have a process where we are gathering a lot of assumptions, idea, what I call business epics, which is like, hey, we could launch a mobile application. Hey, we could do something to integrate with enterprise resource planning systems. Hey, we could do some analytics. We have ideas of things we could do. And we need to evaluate these ideas and test these ideas to find the ones that are correct. It's like saying, hey, we did some experiments, we talked to some customers, we showed them some prototypes, and they're raving about it. They are like, oh my God, this is magic. So now we know this is interesting. On the other hand, we had this crazy idea, we tested a little bit, still we don't have good feedback. So maybe we need to, iterate it a little bit before we put it into the backlog. Now we are validating user stories. Now we are validating epics. Now it's a matter of prioritizing them and seeing which are the ones that we deliver most value over the time. That's where we can bring a backlog and then start iterating here and doing like demos and having like sprints and retrospectives. And during these sprints and this retrospective, we can start measuring all the things that we deliver to the market and we're putting in production. We can start getting metrics on usage, on revenue, on customer satisfaction. And all these metrics, we can incorporate them higher in the process to validate the assumptions of what the customer problem is and how can we solve the customer problem. That's why I talk about a double loop of learning. We have a smaller loop here where we try to figure out if we are building the correct thing that the backlog says, but then there's a higher loop where we try to figure out if the whole backlog is a good idea or not, if we are working on the right products, on the right market, for the right customers or not. And this is the one we need to improve. This Scrum, Kanban, XP does it really, really nice, but this feedback is not happening that much. What we are doing in companies is every 6 months we have like strategy meetings where we define what products are we going to launch into the market, what opportunities are we going to seize. And then every 3 months we have portfolio meetings, which is trying to schedule projects and give staff and budget to specific projects that matches the strategic goals. Every month we have like tactical meetings and we can make changes in the portfolio. And of course every 2 weeks we will have like sprints. And what we're doing is like, again, here we have portfolio management, here we have release planning, and we have product reviews, and here we have sprints. What we are making sure is that at the end of every sprint, we are incorporating feedback. So every month when we have a meeting about tactics, we have the feedback of the last 2 sprints. So we can say, oh my God, we are doing it wrong. Or we can say, we are in the right direction. Or this thing is working, but this thing is not very promising. Maybe we should make some changes for the next 2 sprints. And the conclusions of these tactical meetings, we are elevating them to the portfolio management team. So we make sure that we are working on the right projects. So we have the right to cancel any projects every 3 months or even every month if we find that there's something terrible happening. Or if there's a new opportunity that we have to incorporate in the portfolio. We don't have to wait 6 months for a portfolio meeting. We can do that every month or every 2 weeks even if it's important enough. But the important thing is that feedback is, strategy is flowing downwards, feedback is flowing upwards. And when you have strategy meetings, these big meetings that we have every 6 months with all the CEOs and CXOs and all the stakeholders, then we have a lot of information about what we thought 6 months ago and what we know now, and then we decide about what we want to do in the next 6 months. We have a lot of feedback. This is the most important thing, that we are incorporating for Lean Startup to Agile Product Management. I have like 5 minutes, I think, or maybe 2 minutes, I don't know, for the 5 other things that I told you that I would advise you, but a little bit faster. One of them is go truly iterative incremental. Truly iterative incremental means that every feature that you are releasing every week, every 2 days, every 3 days, when you are finishing a user story, that user story should be end-to-end, like front end, thing in the middle, back end, everything is working. I see people that are doing sprints and they call themselves Agile companies and Agile teams, and they say, sprint 1, we do the layer 1, sprint 2, layer 2, sprint 3, layer 3, sprint 4, layer 4, oh my God, we have no more time, release the product. No, sorry, we cannot because we don't have layer 5 or layer 6, so there's no product at all. That's not Agile. Agile should be, sprint 1, we release 3 or 4 features, sprint 2, we release another bunch of features, sprint 4, 3, 4, and then suddenly you're like, we're out of time, and you're like, oh my God, we only have 25 features, we wanted to have 50, but these 25 features, they're working, and they make a product, and it's a cohesive product, it makes sense, and with any luck, these 25 features are the most important features that solve the most things for our customers. That's truly iterative incremental. And you have to be very, very careful that you don't fall in the trap of working 8 months and then say release and say, oh no, it's not ready. If I hear that, then the whole illusion of agility crumbles down. We are not agile if you say it's not ready after several months of working. So you have to become very, very good at getting huge solutions, huge products, huge ideas, and slicing them in small things that you can do very, very, very frequently, and you can get feedback from them very frequently. For me, user story is something that a team should be able to produce in 1 or 2 days, maybe 3. If it's bigger than 3 days, that's not a user story. That's maybe an epic. You should slice it smaller. And then there's always someone who says, oh, but you don't understand. There's things that we cannot slice. It's not possible. It's not possible in this context means we still don't know how to do it. It's always possible to slice the stories into smaller things. So that would be my 5th advice. 6, inception meetings. Maybe you cannot have your team working on the whole process that I drew, like generating opportunities and doing minimum viable experiments and talking to the market and deciding on a strategical level what's the most important thing we're doing next. But once you say, okay, now we work on this, you should start by getting all that information you've gathered through weeks or maybe months to your team. Tell your team about how this idea started, where did it come from, what customers did you talk to, how did you validate these assumptions, what's the validated learning we have, what's the success we are expecting, what's the value we're delivering. There's a lot of information that has been going on a strategical and portfolio and maybe operational and tactical level. Now that's time for the team to build that. Spend some time transferring that knowledge. And you don't do that with a document. You do that with conversations. If possible, you bring your customers on site and you spend a couple of days doing inception meetings. There's a book that is called The Agile Samurai, and in The Agile Samurai, they describe something that is called the Inception Deck. The Inception Deck is a list of exercises that you can use in order to transfer product knowledge and problem knowledge to your development team. But there's plenty of other things that can bring on to these meetings. Just do it. Just start every significant part of your project by spending some time transferring domain and context knowledge to your development teams. Number 7, no Scrum Norris, okay? Which means don't go solo on product management. Mary Poppendick was mentioning that this morning. She basically spoiled half my talk. She was saying having product owner is one of the worst things that Scrum brought to the Agile community, because it is the idea that you have one person which is the visionary, the owner of the product. I am Scrum Norris. I will take care of the product on my own. Scrum Norris is a Scrum Master and product owner simultaneously. How cool is that? And Scrum Norris is pairs alone. Or Scrum Norris sits on the stand-up meeting. Or Scrum Norris did not move story cards. He moved the task board instead. Or Scrum Norris burns down with napalm. Okay? There's a list on the internet about Scrum Norris. You can find it later. It's not mine, okay? But it's hilarious. So what I'm trying to say with no Scrum Norris is form a team of people that will take care of transferring strategy on a CXO level, that will care that project portfolio management is being taken care adequately, and is able to gather all that information and transfer that to the teams frequently and effectively. Usually, Mary Poppendick mentioned that this morning, valuable, feasible, usable, okay? So usable, you want someone that knows about the user. Valuable, you want someone that knows about the product, about the market. And feasible, you want someone technical that knows about what technology can do. These three people, this triad, is a pattern that we are observing in very, very successful companies. Some people call this pattern the three amigos, okay? I don't know why. But it's like three people with different backgrounds gathering together frequently and talking about how to steer the product and make it more successful. And this is not only about executing the backlog, which is the smaller cycle, the smaller loop. It's also about the bigger loop of incorporating knowledge to the from the customer and the problem and the domain to the company and the development team. So you need perspective from finance, sales, user experience, marketing, development, design. There's a lot of people that should be focusing on how can we deliver value to the customer. Number 8, know your funnel. Understand how you sell to the market. Understand how your market knows about your product. Sometimes you have a very good product that is designed in a very agile way, but you cannot reach the market. Nobody knows about your product. And then you have a marketing problem. So try to incorporate marketing in all this dialogue on how to have more marketable products. It's also a dimension of better products. And number 9, I will go a little bit faster, build metrics and incorporate those metrics into your assumptions. This is something that I never find good metrics at Agile teams. Like for instance, instead of saying, as a user, I want a better registration process so I can complete it without quitting, which is like as a blah blah, I want blah blah blah, so I can blah 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 blah, the very well-known pattern or whatever you call that, hanger for user stories. Instead of that, you could try something like, we believe, it's a belief, it's an assumption, that new customers, which is a specific type of customer, it's not every customer, is this kind of customer. Think about user personas, for instance. Have a problem with the registration process. This is the problem we're trying to solve. I don't care about the product, I don't care about the feature, I don't care what you do. Solve this problem for me. I'm not specifying the feature, I'm not saying you how the registration process should be. I'm telling you, we have a problem with this. Solve it. And we will know that we are right when the bounce rate diminishes. This is a quantitative metric. And the customer satisfaction improves. This is a qualitative metric. And those metrics should contribute to conversion rate, which is a key performance indicator. So here you have kind of customer, problem to solve, solution, quantitative metric, qualitative metric, key performance indicator. Build that into your user stories. You should be able to answer to the question, why are we doing this user story? And the answer should not be because the customer asked for it. That's a very poor product management process. Number 10, keep it simple. Keep it simple, stupid. It's this KISS thing. Keep it simple means that, remember these slides, you want to have this small product with very, very few features that are magic and solve a problem for your customer. Don't keep putting features into your product because you are supposed to, because you get paid for it. You have people that are paid to develop features. Guess what? They will develop features, and they will have features and features and features and features and features, and then you will end up with a feature monster. Instead of that, trim your backlog. Be sure that you are cutting down all the things that do not make it. You are not able to do everything. You will never have resources to do everything. And you will never make everyone happy. And if you cannot say no to someone, then your yes means nothing. So you have to be ready to say no to a lot of people, yes to a few. That's the real meaning of focusing on your product, okay? So that's it. Overall, my final advice would be try to make it about your customer. Try to make it about loving your customer, caring about your customer. Be customer-centric, but, as in this picture, this lady loves her customer a lot, his husband, for instance, but of course, she's the one in control, okay? So be the one in control of your product, no matter how much you love the customer, okay? So thank you very much. That was my final slide. Remember the kitten when you give the feedback. Thank you.